Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Allianz Arena. We are situated in the press box ahead of the Euro 2024 opener between Germany and Scotland. The very definition of a big game. Myself and Jonny McFarlane from Herald Sport to look ahead to it. We're going to speak a little bit about today, which has seen Scotland fans take over Germany to the extent that the main square was effectively closed off by police, and also, of course, look forward to this game as well. Still a couple hours to kick off. Jonny, it's been another long day, but fill us in briefly. What have we been up to ahead of the big one?
Well, we've been wandering the streets of Munich, talking to fans, trying to gauge the moods, and you have to say the mood's incredibly positive. Everyone I spoke to was incredibly happy to be here. The atmosphere with both German fans and Scots was terrific. And you have to say, Josh, I mean, we've talked about it before, we've been at big events, but this just feels absolutely massive. And it is massive, that's the thing. 1998, that was the last time Scotland played in an opening game of a major championships. It was a different time, it was before social media. Now,
it's before I was born.
It was,
so
that tells you how long
ago
it was. I mean, it was so long ago that I remember sneaking into a pub, leaving school early and sneaking into a pub to watch the game when I was 16. So, I mean, that tells you we were all in short pants at that time, and those of us who were alive. So, listen, it's really, really going to be a massive encounter, and I can't wait to see what Steve Clarke has got up his sleeve, because he's going to have to have been working on something to combat this German threat. But in terms of the mood of the Scottish fans has been incredibly positive, and for me it was great to see Andy Robertson last night. He really made me feel confident about the game in a way that I hadn't before, just because he seemed so switched on. He seemed like a man possessed. He seemed like a man totally focused, and he was very convincing about Scotland going through a period of change and a period of adjustment in the lead up to qualifying for the last Euros, and now the next stage of this journey is for them to go and qualify from this group. Now, today's a freebie. It doesn't matter. This group is going to be decided on the next two games, not this one. The only problem tonight would be a 4-0 victory for Germany or something like that. You don't want it to be any more than two. And you don't want to lose at all, but you understand what I'm saying. It's you want to get out of here tonight still in a good situation with the group, and anything but a thrashing, and Scotland will be in good shape. So I'm looking forward to it, Josh, and I think there's going to be such a great atmosphere in here.
Yeah, I mean, let's talk about the German fans maybe to start with as well, because they are the hosts. They are, I guess, in a way, it's not quite as big a deal when you've won a World Cup 10 years ago as for Scotland fans who haven't been away at a major tournament for well over 2 decades. But there is going to be a lot of pressure on them here tonight. 75,000 fans will be in the Allianz Arena. I'm not sure exactly what the split of fans is. Julian Nagelsmann, again, he was very relaxed. He's effectively said what his starting 11 is already going to be, which is an interesting tactic. We spoke yesterday in our podcast briefly about he's only 6 or 7 games into his tenure as Germany boss, but he is supposed to be a figure of change. There's been a lot of alterations to the squad. It seems to be based a lot more on form than it is on necessarily name and reputation, if you look at the German names who are not here. And I think similarly to Scotland, the system is based around their two most effective players, how to get Musiala and Wirtz, 2 number 10s, into the team when they can't play in the same position. Firstly, just what have you sensed being in Germany for a few days about the mood of the home crowd as they prepare to host this tournament?
Well, this is going to sound weird, but we haven't actually seen that many Germans. I would say the Scots are outnumbering the Germans in Munich city centre by about 5-1. We've seen a lot more today, and we've spoken to a lot of wonderful people today from the German side, all of whom speak perfect English and make me feel like a total Philistine that I can't communicate with them in their language like the way they can in ours. But I think it's safe to say the German people that we spoke to are confident without being overconfident. I don't think they don't have a lot of faith in this team at the moment, because it's still building up after a difficult period. But they know that they are Germany and we are Scotland. And they know that they have world-class players in their team. Toni Kroos is undeniably world-class. He's won 6 Champions Leagues. he plays for Real Madrid, or played for Real Madrid, until he went into retirement now after the Euros. At the end of the season, you've got players like Wirtz, who's gone through a season like no other for Bayer Leverkusen. You look at even the forward line, Kai Havertz is a player that's had a mixed time in English football, but was the hottest young talent to come out of Germany when he was at Leverkusen. Josh and I saw the game at Ibrox, Rangers against Leverkusen at the time, and Kai Havertz was a total standout. You were saying this kid is going places. I think he struggled a little bit when he was certainly made the move to Chelsea, despite scoring the goal that won the Champions League. That led to him taking this move to Arsenal. But I think now you're starting to see Mikel Arteta has a plan for him, understood maybe how to get the best out of a player that some people have struggled to pinpoint the best position for him. And I look at him up there, and I think he'll give Scotland a lot of problems with this movement and the cleverness he has in picking up pockets of space. On top of that, Havertz is good in the air, and he's also quick.
Yes.
This is something that you're not expecting from that kind of player. He's a technical player, but he's big and he's powerful.
Germany have a lot of players who can kind of do everything, and
yes.
I think the worry for Scotland, well, there is an element of unknown with them, because they had a really positive time in the March international break against winning over against the Netherlands and France, and that seemed to raise expectation. The couple of friendlies prior to this tournament were not as encouraging. It was only really, I think, when Germany changed system against Greece that they managed to find a way through. Nagelsmann spoke about that yesterday. He was effectively saying, look, he actually spoke to the journalists and said, as you will know yourself from your own work, which is maybe a subtle dig, you need a couple of days to get into your job sometimes. And also the reality is, I think we've seen this with Scotland as well, the predominant aim of players in the friendlies before the tournament is do not get injured, which is obviously the really unfortunate circumstance that's happened to Lyndon Dykes in training. So they are at the start of this journey, a little bit of an element of the unknown. I guess if things click for Nagelsmann and click with the talent that Germany have on the show, it could be a really difficult night for Scotland. We touched a little bit as well on how that could line up with how they play. Let's contrast that to the mood of Scotland fans. You did a preview video thanks to our sponsors at DX Home Improvements, who will be linked in the description. A lot of optimism, not least from DX himself, so we're going for a 2-1 victory. But Scotland fans, there's been this for the whole, I'm 24, the whole time that I've been watching football, there's always been glorious failure associated with Scotland. Still can't say that that's not a part of it, but there has been, I think, more of a quiet confidence in the national team in the last few years than I've ever really known watching Scotland. What have you been sensing from Scotland fans, speaking to them in the lead up to this one about their confidence?
Well, I think Scottish fans and the media, we know Scotland have a good team at the moment. A good team in the context of what we've seen over the last 30 years or 25 years, where we've had a national downturn in terms of the level of quality that's in the team. You've got to remember that there was a period between 1974 and 1990 when Scotland qualified for every single World Cup. I think it was, 5 in a row.
That's it.
So 74, 78, 82, 86, 90, and then they missed out in 94 and came back in 98. So when I was a kid growing up, it was perennial that Scotland would qualify for these tournaments. It made the 92 Euros, 96 Euros. Prior to that, the Euros was only 8 teams, so it was much more difficult to get into, to be fair. But I think people know that this team is bristling with talent, especially in the middle of the park. You look at players like Billy Gilmore, like Scott McTominay, like Callum McGregor, like any number of them, to be honest. Even if you look on the bench and you look at players like Ryan Christie, they're all good with the ball. Ryan Jack, good with the ball. John McGinn, I mean, is a slightly different type of player and a little bit less technically gifted than maybe the other guys, but brings different things to the table. But you look at that four, that box midfield, as you would say, Josh, with your hipster parlance. That's not a midfield that needs to worry about anyone. They play in the Premier League week in, week out, with the exception of McGregor, who's a Celtic captain and plays in the Champions League and has always looked really good for Scotland. So I think people are buoyed by the fact that central area is really strong. Now, are we as strong in the other positions? Absolutely not. Up front, I think we've got issues. Shea Adams is a good player, but for me, he's not a goal scorer. Not going to get you any more than 1 in 3, I don't think. But he is a good player. Lawrence Shankland's untested at this level, and it would be a big gamble by Clark to throw him in. I don't know if he will or not. I don't think he will. But I know there's a sort of team lineup that was leaked. It was shown on the big screen here, but I think that's quite common in stadiums.
It was 1 to 11 numerically, so I think they were just testing it.
Quite common in stadiums to put up a fake graphic just to test the system. So I've seen that before. I don't think that's necessarily a pointer towards anything. It might be, but I would doubt it. And at the back, I think you look at that back three, back five, however you want to describe it. The left side is obviously world class, fantastic. Andy Robertson, we don't need to talk about him really. He's at Liverpool. He's been one of the mainstays. He's at the peak of his career. Kieran Tierney, when he's fit, is a terrific player. But you look at the right side, and the whole right side of the team's just not quite as strong. Scotland, I think, to be successful, they really have to make the most of that left side over these next 3 games.
Yeah, I think there's a bit of disbalance in the German team as well, but they obviously have a little bit more in terms of depth. Right, let's, before we close, speak about who we think are going to be key players. I don't think there's too many selection dilemmas for Clark tonight. I expect it to be, well, maybe it depends if he goes with Hanley and Hendry, or it's Hendry and Porteous. Presumably it's going to be Ralston at right wing back. Again, presumably it's going to be that box midfield we've discussed, and Che Adams, if McTominay is fit to play. Clark yesterday said that everyone was fit and firing to go. We know McTominay's had a difficult couple of months in terms of picking up the odd knock, and that was, I guess, reflected in his role in the friendlies. 2 or 3 players you think are going to be the most important for Scotland tonight, and maybe just how you see the game playing out with how Germany want to attack with Musiala and Wirtz, and how that could be contrasted with what we know Scotland normally. Again, you don't want to throw too many predictions out here because of the talent Germany have, but Scotland are normally a pretty dependable team against the ball, aren't they?
They are, and I think that's their biggest chance, is how they line up against the ball, and can they break on Germany quickly and get men in the box, especially down that left side. Can they get Andy Robertson in a position where he can put the ball in, because we know the delivery's there. And Kieran Tierney as well, it's exactly the same. My hope for this game, my hope for Scotland to get a result is in Nagelsmann, because he's young, he's incredibly talented, he's going to have an amazing future as a coach. But international football is different, and sometimes arrogance and youth can mean you get away from yourself. And I wonder if he's maybe trying to complicate the setup in this team. If it clicks, it'll be absolutely incredible, and Germany have got a chance of winning this tournament. But if it doesn't, if it takes a bit of time, then I think Scotland have an opportunity to bog down Germany in a quagmire to really flood that midfield and prevent those really talented players like Wirtz, like Musiala, like Gundogan. Don't let them have the space to play. Force Germany wide, and they don't have anyone wide. Certainly their fullbacks are not not natural, terrifying players, are they? You know, it's not like you're saying Leroy Sané or someone like that is out there. So for me, that's where Scotland can win the battle. In terms of getting goals, where are the goals coming from for Scotland? The number one player for me, Scott McTominay. Terrific arriving in the box, and arriving in the box for an Andy Robertson cutback. I think that's where, if Scotland are going to get a goal, that's probably where it's going to come from. John McGinn, would be lovely to see him put one at the top corner from 35 yards. Now's the time. And that's another thing I think to look out for, if we can get a wonder goal from somewhere. But there's no doubt there's going to be periods of this game when Scotland are hanging on by their fingernails, and we've just got to accept that. But I just want to reiterate, and I think this is so important, Josh, this game is a free hit. I don't care what anyone says. If you get a draw in this game or a win, you're absolutely set up for the tournament. But this group will be decided on the next 2 games. Scotland and Switzerland, there's not much difference. Scotland and Hungary, there's not much difference. It'll come down to tactics, to who's better on the day, who's in better form in the moment. And I think that's another reason why I would have Scott McTominay start, Josh. I would throw him in, not just because he's a terrific player, but because he'll benefit from the game time to get him up to speed, so he's further down for the challenges ahead. And if Scott McTominay can come roaring to life against Switzerland, and especially against Hungary, then you've got a real chance. And let's not forget, one win, Josh. If you lose narrowly in the first 2 games, you could still go through with a win in that last game, especially if it's a reasonably convincing one. Listen, it's not going to be easy to do that. I think the last Euro, somebody said to me the other day, 3 teams had 4 points and 1 had 3. So only, it's a narrow route to pass through. But let's not rule anything out. Let's take it one game at a time. Let's not be Scottish about it and try and say, oh, we need to do this, we need to do that. You don't know what you need to do until you know. So let's analyse it as time goes on. But if you get anything today, it's an absolute epoch-defining result, an incredible result, and let's hope Scotland can do it.
Okay, we're going to leave it there because the opening ceremony, I don't think it's too far away. If you are watching us, we are going to be doing these podcasts right throughout the duration of the tournament. You can join us every day on the Facebook page, the Herald's Twitter or X page, and their YouTube as well. Stay up to date with us across our socials for immediate post-match reaction from the manager and our team here at the Allianz Arena as well. Until then, thank you for joining us. Enjoy the game wherever you're watching it, and we'll speak to you soon. Bye for now.